You've been told time is your enemy, that youth is the ultimate advantage, that your window to achieve something meaningful shrinks with every passing year, that if you haven't made it by now, you probably never will. That's the story they sold you, and you bought it. But here's the brutal truth. Time isn't your enemy. It's your greatest leverage if you know how to use it. The real edge doesn't come from being young, fast, or hyperactive. It comes from accumulation, the slow, deliberate compounding of clarity, restraint, and wisdom, the kind that doesn't make noise but makes power. You don't lose your edge as you age. You sharpen it if you keep thinking. Most people misunderstand what advantage really means. They think it's about having resources, youth, luck, or connections, but those things fade, shift, or get stolen. Real advantage can't be taken because it lives inside you. It's the ability to see the world for what it really is, not what your emotions or society tell you it is. It's the patience to wait while everyone else panics. It's the refusal to act on impulse when the crowd is losing its mind. That's an unfair advantage because almost nobody develops it. They're too busy reacting, scrolling, complaining. Meanwhile, the few who actually win, they're observing, absorbing, and compounding understanding while everyone else burns their energy chasing noise. You think you need more time to figure things out. You don't. You need better thinking. More hours won't save you if your thinking is shallow. You can live 80 years and never learn a thing if your mind keeps spinning in emotional circles. And you can outthink an entire generation if you train yourself to be calm, patient, and brutally logical. The reason your life feels stuck isn't lack of opportunity. It's that your decisions are being made by your emotions, not your judgment. That's where most people destroy themselves. They react, they justify, they chase the next shiny thing. Every impulsive decision compounds into a future of regret. Every moment of calm thinking compounds into a future of freedom. You've been tricked into believing that action equals progress. That if you're not constantly moving, grinding, producing, you're falling behind. But movement without direction is chaos disguised as ambition. The world worships speed. The faster the better. But speed without thought is suicide. The people who actually dominate are rarely the fastest. They're the ones who pause before they move. They read, they think, they wait. Because patience isn't weakness, it's power under control, it's intelligence multiplied by time. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they can't wait. They burn their chances trying to look busy instead of actually becoming better. Look around, you can see the pattern. Everyone is sprinting towards something they haven't even defined. They want wealth without understanding money. They want success without discipline. They want freedom without sacrifice. And because of that, they keep running in circles. The ones who win aren't smarter, they're more stable. They don't get carried away by trends, moods, or emotions. They focus on what compounds. They build systems that outlast their motivation. They build clarity that outlives their excitement. That's the quiet difference between mediocrity and mastery. Your emotions are expensive. Every time you react without thinking, you pay a price. In money, in time, in opportunity. The market doesn't punish stupidity, it taxes it. Life doesn't punish impatience, it exposes it. Calm minds compound, restless minds collapse. You think losing control is normal because everyone around you is doing it, snapping, quitting, chasing, venting. But that's why they stay ordinary. The higher your emotional control, the fewer mistakes you make. The fewer mistakes you make, the faster your life compounds. And yet no one teaches this because everyone's addicted to drama. You can't outwork everyone forever. Someone will always have more hours, more energy, more connections, but you can outthink them because when you think better, you use your hours better. Every hour of clear, disciplined thought is worth 10 hours of blind effort. People underestimate how powerful a clear mind is. They try to win through effort, not through insight. They keep throwing themselves at walls instead of finding the door. You don't need to move harder, you need to see sharper. The real currency of power isn't money, it's clarity. Money flows toward people who can think independently, act rationally, and stay patient while others lose control. That's why wisdom compounds faster than wealth. Every lesson truly learned becomes capital you can't lose. Every mistake avoided becomes interest on your future. But most people refuse to learn. They repeat the same errors because they're too proud to admit ignorance. They care more about appearing smart than becoming wise. And that's why their growth stops long before their potential does. It's not about being a genius. It's about staying a student forever. That's the secret that breaks every rule society taught you. Everyone's obsessed with appearing finished, proven, successful. But the moment you think you figured it out, you start dying mentally. The people who keep rising, even in old age, are the ones who never stop refining their mind. They keep reading, thinking, questioning. They know that the moment you stop learning, you start decaying. The unfair advantage isn't some mystical talent. It's built quietly in the way you think, react, and decide. It's the strength to stay calm when others lose control. The courage to stay patient when others demand speed. The humility to keep learning when others think they know it all. You can't fake that. You can't buy it, but you can build it. If you start valuing wisdom over stimulation, clarity over motion, and truth over comfort, that's when time stops being your enemy. That's when it starts working for you. Because the truth is, age doesn't make you irrelevant. It makes you dangerous if you've been compounding the right things. Every decade of experience, every lesson hard learned, every illusion shed, it all adds up to something youth can't imitate. A deep, ruthless understanding of how life actually works. That's the ultimate unfair advantage. And the sooner you stop chasing speed and start chasing clarity, the sooner you'll earn it. You think you need more time, more chances, more lucky breaks. You tell yourself that if you just had a bit more time, you'd figure it out. But that's not true. And deep down, you know it. The problem isn't time, it's you. The way you think, the way you waste your focus, the way you confuse movement with progress. You've been collecting information for years, yet your results haven't changed, have they? Because information doesn't transform you. Judgment does. You've built a library in your head, but not a single principle in your bones. You read, watch, scroll, and forget. You chase stimulation, not understanding. You say you want wisdom, but you won't sit still long enough to hear your own thoughts. You mistake busyness for depth. You confuse effort with direction. You say you're learning, but what you're really doing is avoiding silence, avoiding reflection, avoiding the discomfort of confronting your own foolishness. Here's the truth you don't want to face. Your mind is weak because you've never trained it to be strong. You feed it junk, opinions, outrage, distractions, and expect it to produce clarity. You flood it with noise and then wonder why you can't hear your own intuition. You treat your brain like a dumping ground instead of an instrument. You spend your days reacting, not reasoning. You let emotions, trends, and the opinions of strangers dictate your direction. That's not thinking, that's drifting. Most people live their entire lives this way. They never question the thoughts that control them. They never audit their mental diet. They just keep swallowing whatever the world feeds them. And that's why mediocrity compounds faster than success. Not because people are dumb, but because they've surrendered their minds. They've confused knowing something with understanding it. They've confused reacting with deciding. You don't need more time, you need more awareness. You need to stop treating your mind like a cheap machine running on autopilot. You need to look at your own thoughts and ask, where did this belief come from? Is this even mine? That question alone separates the thinkers from the herd, because most people never stop to ask it. They live by inherited scripts. They think with borrowed ideas, and they wonder why their life feels like a copy of someone else's. You don't need to move faster. You need to think cleaner. You don't need motivation. You need mental discipline. The ability to sit in silence and wrestle with your own ignorance until you understand what's real. The courage to accept that you might have been wrong for years. The strength to destroy your own illusions before the world does it for you. That's what better thinking looks like. It's not glamorous, it's brutal. It requires honesty most people aren't built for. The shocking truth is, intelligence doesn't matter nearly as much as clarity. Some of the smartest people in the world live miserable, confused lives because their intelligence serves their emotions instead of their logic. They use their cleverness to justify bad choices, to rationalize mediocrity, to protect their ego. Intelligence without discipline is just self-deception on steroids. That's why so many bright people stay stuck. Your mind isn't broken, it's just untrained. You've spent years learning how to work, how to earn, how to please, but never how to think. Nobody taught you to question your own patterns, to separate emotion from reason, to slow down when everything around you screams for speed. Thinking well isn't about being smart, it's about being clear. It's about understanding how your brain tricks you, how your desires blind you, and how your fear limits you. It's about catching those traps before they control your decisions. Every choice you make is a vote for the kind of mind you're building. When you rush, you train impulsiveness. When you hesitate from fear, you train cowardice. When you think deeply, you train precision. Your habits of thought are shaping your future faster than any opportunity ever could. That's the real compounding you should fear, the compounding of bad mental habits. If your life keeps repeating the same mistakes, it's because your thinking keeps repeating the same errors. You can't escape them by changing jobs, cities, or relationships, because the problem moves with you. You are the common denominator. Until you rewire your thinking, you'll keep rebuilding the same prison with new wallpaper. So stop chasing the next big break. Start chasing better thinking. Audit your mind, clean out the noise, question every belief that hasn't delivered results. The world doesn't reward speed, it rewards accuracy. One clear decision is worth 100 rushed ones. Stop lying to yourself that you need more time. You've had enough time. What you've lacked is clarity. And clarity only comes when you finally stop reacting and start thinking. The world has trained you to worship speed. Move fast, act fast, decide fast. Everyone's sprinting, chasing, grinding, optimizing, posting, and yet most are running in the wrong direction. You've mistaken movement for momentum. You've mistaken reaction for strategy. But the truth is simple. The fastest way to ruin your potential is to confuse urgency with importance. The ones who win at life don't chase speed. They master stillness. They move slow. They read when others scroll. They think when others talk. They wait while others panic because they understand something most people never will. Patience is intelligence in motion. It's control disguised as calm. It's the ability to let time do the heavy lifting while everyone else burns themselves out trying to force results. You think being quick makes you sharp. It doesn't. It makes you sloppy. When you move too fast, you don't see clearly. You mistake noise for signals. You overreact. You make emotional decisions that cost you years of progress. The real players, the ones with quiet confidence, they don't need to rush. They know compounding only rewards those who can wait. They understand that consistency beats intensity every time. Most people can't sit still. They need the illusion of progress. They need to feel busy to feel worthy. But busyness is the perfect disguise for waste. It keeps you distracted, tired, and proud of nothing. The truth is, your obsession with speed is just a fear of stillness. You're scared of silence because silence forces you to face yourself. It forces you to see how much of your energy is spent avoiding what actually matters. You said you can't outwork everyone. Someone will always have more energy, more stamina, more hours in the day. But you can outthink them. That's the real advantage, the one no one can take from you. Hard work matters, yes, but hard work without clear thinking is just exhaustion in disguise. You see people grinding themselves into dust, proud of how much effort they're putting in while their results barely move. They confuse effort with intelligence. They think sweat equals progress, but it doesn't. You don't win by doing more. You win by doing what matters, and that requires thinking better than the rest. Your mind is your leverage. It's your engine, your filter, your weapon. If you can control it, you can control everything. If you can't, then no amount of effort will save you. The strongest minds don't react to every stimulus. They choose their battles. They don't let their emotions drive their actions. They let logic dictate direction. They can detach, step back, observe, analyze, while others are blinded by impulse. That's not coldness, that's precision. It's emotional intelligence, stripped of fluff and full of power. You've been taught to hustle, not to think, to move faster, not smarter. That's why you burn out. You try to outrun your own confusion instead of solving it. You throw yourself into more work instead of better work. But more isn't the answer. Clearer is. You can't outgrind a bad strategy. You can't outwork poor judgment. You can't fix confusion by speeding it up. Every mistake made in confusion multiplies with effort. And that's what most people never realize. Effort doesn't forgive stupidity, it amplifies it. You see it everywhere. People rushing into decisions, chasing trends, reacting to every rumor, every fear. They think they're being proactive, but really they're being pulled by invisible strings, emotions, envy, ego. They act before they think, and then they spend years cleaning up the damage. Meanwhile, the person who paused, who analyzed, who waited, that's the one who ends up ahead, because the one who thinks clearly wastes less, and wasting less is a superpower in a world addicted to distraction. Mental discipline is the rarest skill on the planet. Everyone talks about discipline like it's about waking up early, hitting the gym, or working long hours. That's physical discipline. Important, yes. But mental discipline, that's the higher level. It's the ability to say no to your own impulses, to not react when your emotions demand chaos, to not seek revenge when your ego feels attacked, to not chase every opportunity that sparkles, to hold still when holding still is the smartest move. That's power, quiet. Invisible, devastating power. You think discipline is about willpower. It's not. It's about clarity. When you truly understand what matters, saying no becomes effortless. You're not resisting temptation. You're rejecting waste. Most people lack discipline because they lack direction. They can't say no because they don't know what yes means. Their priorities shift daily, blown around by emotion, so they chase everything, achieve nothing, and call it effort. The people you secretly admire, the calm ones, the decisive ones, they've trained their minds to think like steel. They don't let noise control them. They don't let other people's chaos infect their clarity. They've built a mental firewall, and that's why they move with such quiet confidence. When others panic, they plan. When others react, they wait. When others scream, they observe. That's mental discipline, and it's worth more than any degree, title, or connection. You want to know why you keep making the same mistakes? Because your emotions are making the decisions, not your reasoning. You tell yourself you're being intuitive, but really you're being impulsive. You act on feelings that vanish in hours, but their consequences last for years. You want to know why you can't stay consistent? Because you let moods dictate your actions instead of systems. You want to know why you feel stuck? Because you keep doing what feels urgent instead of what's actually important. That's not bad luck, that's bad mental control. If you ever want peace, strength, or success that lasts, you have to train your mind the same way an athlete trains their body, constantly, relentlessly. You have to learn to step outside of yourself and watch your thoughts like a scientist. You have to catch your own emotional traps, the ego, the fear, the impatience, before they hijack your logic. Because every time you fail to do that, you're building weakness. Every time you give in to impulse, you're training your brain to obey chaos. And chaos compounds. The truth is, your biggest enemy isn't competition. It's not the economy, not the market, not your upbringing. It's your own undisciplined mind. The mind that reacts before understanding, the mind that speaks before thinking, the mind that seeks comfort instead of clarity. You don't need to be more talented. You need to be more stable. You don't need to think faster. You need to think cleaner. That's what separates strength from noise, wisdom from arrogance, power from desperation. Every mistake that ruins a person's life starts with one small moment of mental weakness, a reaction, an impulse, a surrender to emotion. Every victory that builds a legacy begins with one small moment of restraint, a pause, a thought, a decision to stay calm when it's hardest. That's the line between the people who drift and the people who dominate. You can't control the world, you can't control other people, but you can control your mind, and that's enough to control your destiny, because once your thoughts obey you, nothing outside of you can break you. And when you reach that point, you'll realize something extraordinary. Power doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't chase. Real power is calm, calculated, and silent. And it begins the moment you finally master yourself. Your emotions are expensive. Every time you act out of fear, pride, or impulse, you pay a price. In time, in money, in opportunity, in peace. You think it's harmless because it feels normal. But every emotional reaction is a withdrawal from your future. Every time you lose control, you give away leverage. You might not see the cost immediately, but it compounds silently, relentlessly, until you wake up wondering why nothing ever moves forward. You've been trained to trust your feelings. Follow your heart, they said. Go with your gut. That's romantic nonsense. Feelings are signals, not instructions. They're warnings, not commands. The moment you start treating emotion as truth, you stop thinking. And when you stop thinking, you start destroying. That's why people make their worst decisions in their best moods and their most permanent mistakes in their most temporary feelings. You can't build anything strong on emotion. Emotion doesn't plan. Emotion doesn't calculate. Emotion doesn't think long term. It only wants comfort now. It wants revenge now. It wants validation now. But the things that matter, mastery, wealth, peace, power, they all live on the other side of restraint. Every time you delay an emotional reaction, you grow stronger. Every time you resist the urge to explode, you build control. Every time you stay calm when chaos hits, you gain clarity that most people will never know. Look at how the world operates. Emotional people are being played every day. They buy when they should wait. They speak when they should listen. They quit when they should endure. And every system, every market, every game, every manipulation profits off their impatience. Calm people don't get played. Calm people don't get baited. Calm people see through the fog because they're not blinded by the noise. Your emotions are tools, not masters. Anger can motivate. Fear can protect. Excitement can inspire. But when they lead, they destroy. A tool in the wrong hands becomes a weapon against yourself. You're not supposed to suppress emotion. You're supposed to govern it, to feel it fully, but act only when reason agrees. That's what emotional control really means. Not numbness, authority. The ability to let emotion knock on the door, but never hand it the steering wheel. Calm minds compound. Restless minds collapse. That's not poetry, it's physics. The calmer your decisions, the fewer mistakes you make. The fewer mistakes you make, the more your life compounds upward. You save energy, you preserve relationships, you avoid traps. Every outburst you resist adds to your long-term advantage. Every time you keep your composure while others lose theirs, you gain ground, slowly, invisibly, permanently. You say you want peace, but your habits create chaos. You start fights over things that don't matter. You chase instant gratification disguised as self-care. You take offense too easily, speak too quickly, and regret too late. You think emotional expression makes you authentic. It doesn't. Authenticity isn't saying everything you feel. It's saying only what serves truth. It's not reacting in the moment. It's responding with wisdom. You think being emotional makes you human. It does, but being ruled by emotion makes you weak. Every empire, business, and relationship that collapses has the same disease. Emotional instability at the top, the inability to separate what feels right from what is right, the inability to pause, the inability to think while burning. If you can stay level-headed when everyone else is losing theirs, you don't just survive, you inherit control, because calmness is leadership. Let's be brutally honest. Your life looks exactly like the quality of your emotional control. If your days feel chaotic, it's because your emotions are. If your decisions keep backfiring, it's because you let feelings outrun logic. If you feel stuck, it's because you can't stay steady long enough for your choices to compound. You're not cursed. You're just undisciplined emotionally. But the good news is this: emotional control isn't genetic. It's trained. Every moment of restraint strengthens it. Every time you breathe before reacting, you build muscle. Every time you think before speaking, you gain leverage. You don't fix your emotions overnight. You outgrow them, one calm decision at a time. And when that happens, when your emotions finally serve you instead of sabotage you, everything changes. You stop being tossed around by every event, every insult, every mood. You become unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you got harder to move. You start thinking like a strategist instead of a survivor. You stop panicking, you start planning, you stop burning energy on what you can't control and pour it into what you can. That's when you begin to see it clearly. Emotional chaos is expensive, but emotional mastery is wealth. It saves you time, it saves you energy. It saves you from the disasters everyone else walks straight into. And when you finally understand that, when you can keep your mind still in a storm, you'll realize something the world has forgotten. Calm isn't weakness, it's command. Every lesson you truly learn becomes capital. Every mistake you refuse to repeat becomes interest. Wisdom compounds faster than money, but only if you stop acting like you already know enough. Most people never realize this because they chase knowledge like it's a trophy instead of a tool. They want to sound smart, not be smart. They collect facts, not understanding. And that's why their life doesn't move. They're busy memorizing what they never practice. Real wisdom isn't about how much you know. It's about how deeply you apply what you've learned. A single principle, genuinely understood, lived, tested, is worth more than 1,000 clever ideas you never use. The truth is, most of what you read, watch, or consume vanishes within days because you never integrate it into your behavior. You nod, you agree, you move on. But agreement isn't growth. Application is. That you translate knowledge into action, it's just clutter in your head. You say you want change, but your habits reveal the opposite. You crave new information, but you resist transformation. You love the thrill of learning something new because it gives you the illusion of progress. But real progress isn't exciting. It's repetitive. It's doing the right thing long enough for it to become part of you. It's grinding out consistency while the world chases novelty. The ones who truly evolve aren't chasing constant stimulation. They're perfecting simple truths. Wisdom is the quiet accumulation of understanding. It grows slowly, invisibly, through observation, mistakes, and reflection. Every failure that humbles you adds a layer of depth. Every success that doesn't inflate you adds stability. Every painful lesson you refuse to forget becomes a foundation. And just like money compounds with time, so does insight, if you don't spend it foolishly. But most people do. They keep making the same emotional decisions, learning the same painful lessons year after year, as if time alone will make them smarter. Time doesn't make you wise. Reflection does. You can't fast forward wisdom. It's earned through scars, through humiliation, through years of doing things the wrong way, then finally understanding why. You can't fake that. You can't download it. You can't shortcut it. You have to pay for it with patience, humility, and the courage to face your own stupidity. The people who rise above others aren't the ones who never made mistakes. They're the ones who never wasted them. Every mistake is tuition. You've paid the price. The question is, did you collect the lesson, or did you just complain, blame, and move on? Most people pay for experience and throw away the receipt. They go through pain, but not growth. They get older, but not wiser. They accumulate years, not depth, and then they wonder why they keep circling the same problems, attracting the same chaos, repeating the same patterns, because they never sat down to extract the lesson. You want compounding in your life? Start compounding wisdom. Stop skipping the reflection phase after failure. Stop rushing to move on every time you make a mistake. Sit with it. Break it apart. Ask, what did this cost me, and what did it teach me? That question alone will pay you back for decades, because every insight you truly own prevents 1,000 future mistakes, and avoiding mistakes is how real progress accelerates. The truth is, every decision you make adds to your mental balance sheet. Good thinking deposits, bad thinking withdraws. You can't hide from that math. It's happening whether you track it or not. Every lie you tell yourself adds debt. Every truth you face adds equity. Every short-term comfort drains the long-term account. But every bit of reflection, restraint, and learning, that's compound interest on your future power. The reason so few people become truly wise is because they treat learning like a one-time event instead of a lifelong process. They read one book and act like an expert. They win one battle and think they've mastered the war. But wisdom doesn't freeze. It flows. It updates. It evolves with reality. You don't hold wisdom. You maintain it. You polish it daily through curiosity, humility, and awareness. That's why real thinkers never get old. Their minds keep compounding long after their bodies slow down. And the best part, wisdom compounds quietly. No one claps when you make a smart decision. No one notices when you avoid a disaster. No one praises your restraint, your patience, your insight. But the results speak eventually, in peace, in stability, in control. That's the reward. You don't need recognition when you have results that can't be faked. Stop chasing more information. Start mastering what you already know. Let your failures become teachers, not trauma. Let your patience grow interest. Let your reflection turn pain into leverage. Because at the end of the day, knowledge fills the mind, but wisdom fills the life. And once you start compounding wisdom, time stops being a threat. It becomes your ally. You copy everyone. Their habits, their opinions, their fears. You mimic what you see, not because it works, but because it's familiar. You call it learning. You call it fitting in. But what you're really doing is surrendering your mind. You've traded originality for approval. And you wonder why your life feels hollow. The truth is, you're not thinking, you're recycling, you're living secondhand, running someone else's script and wondering why it doesn't fit your life. You scroll through endless advice, quotes, and opinions, collecting fragments of other people's thinking. You let them shape your beliefs, your goals, your definition of success. But here's the harsh truth. Borrowed thinking produces borrowed results. You can't live a legendary life using the logic of the average. You can't build something original while copying the same patterns that keep everyone else mediocre. You want freedom, yet you keep asking for permission. You want power, yet you let strangers on a screen tell you what to believe. The death of original thinking isn't loud. It happens slowly, one unchallenged assumption at a time. You stop questioning. You stop doubting. You stop asking why. You start assuming the crowd must know something you don't. You start mistaking popularity for truth. You start confusing noise for knowledge. That's how independent thought dies, not with ignorance, but with imitation. The people who quietly dominate the world all share one trait. They think for themselves. They take advice, but they filter it through their own judgment. They listen, but they verify. They test, they question, they break ideas apart before adopting them. They understand that thinking independently isn't arrogance. It's responsibility. It's the refusal to outsource your mind to the herd. Because once you do, you stop being a person. You become a reflection. Look at how the crowd behaves. It moves in waves, first excitement, then panic, then regret. You can predict it like the weather, and yet every time people fall for the same patterns. They follow the same hype, fall into the same traps, repeat the same cycles. Why? Because it's easier to follow than to think. Thinking hurts. It forces you to confront uncertainty. It demands you form your own conclusions instead of parroting someone else's. That's why few people do it. And that's exactly why it's the ultimate advantage. You can see it everywhere, in business, in money, in relationships, in ambition. Most people don't want truth, they want validation. They don't seek what works, they seek what's popular. They don't test, they copy. And the moment they face discomfort, they look around to see what everyone else is doing, because being wrong alone scares them more than being wrong together. That's why most lives are duplicates. Not because people lack intelligence, but because they lack courage. The courage to stand apart. You want to know why your ideas don't stick? Because they're not yours, they're echoes. You've built your life around secondhand beliefs you never examined. You believe what your parents believed, what your friends think, what social media repeats. You've built a mental prison made of borrowed bricks. The door's unlocked, but you don't leave, because thinking for yourself feels risky. Here's the paradox. The moment you start thinking independently, you stop competing, because the crowd can't compete with someone who plays a different game. Stop asking for permission to think differently. Stop needing consensus before making a decision. Great minds don't wait for approval. They create proof. They understand that being misunderstood is the price of being original. If no one doubts you, you're not thinking big enough. If everyone agrees with you, you're probably following the herd straight into mediocrity. The crowd hates independent thinkers because they remind everyone else how asleep they are. And don't mistake rebellion for thinking. Doing the opposite of the crowd isn't independence, it's still dependence, just inverted. True independence means thinking without bias. Not toward the crowd, not against it. It means asking what's true, what works, what's real, and having the courage to act on the answer, even if you stand alone. Thinking for yourself is a lonely skill. But that loneliness is fertile ground. It's where clarity grows. It's where ideas mature. It's where you stop reacting and start creating. And once you start creating, you no longer chase trends. Trends chase you. Because the world always bends to the few who think clearly while everyone else copies. If you want to reclaim your mind, start with one simple rule. Question everything. Question your opinions. Question your goals. Question why you want what you want. Ask yourself, do I believe this because it's true or because it's popular? That single question can expose the foundation of your life. And if that foundation turns out to be borrowed, rebuild it, brick by brick, thought by thought. The truth is, originality isn't about being special, it's about being honest. Honest enough to see the world as it is, and yourself as you are. Once you start thinking with your own mind, you'll feel a strange kind of freedom. You'll stop craving validation, you'll stop fearing judgment. You'll stop following trends that lead nowhere because you'll finally understand the rarest privilege in the world isn't wealth or fame. It's the ability to think independently in a world that's forgotten how. Stop asking, how do I win? Start asking, how do I avoid losing? That single shift separates the wise from the reckless, the long-term thinkers from the short-term dreamers. Most people are obsessed with chasing success, but they never study the causes of failure. They focus on reward, not risk. They try to win big before learning how not to lose small. And that's why they keep getting destroyed by the same avoidable mistakes. Avoiding stupidity is more powerful than chasing brilliance. You don't need to be a genius to rise above most people. You just need to stop doing the dumb things they can't stop doing. You don't need perfect moves, you just need fewer bad ones. The world doesn't reward perfection, it rewards survival. And survival belongs to the disciplined, the ones who are smart enough to sidestep predictable traps, while everyone else keeps falling into them. You've been told to dream big, think positive, visualize success. But almost no one tells you to study failure, to dissect it, to understand it, to fear it properly. Because failure leaves clues. Repeated failure leaves patterns. The same causes appear over and over again. Impatience, arrogance, emotional reactions, ignoring reality, overconfidence. People don't fail because they lack information. They fail because they refuse to respect risk. You want an unfair advantage? Build a habit of inversion. Instead of asking, what should I do to succeed? Ask, what could I do that would guarantee failure? Then stop doing those things ruthlessly. That's how you win without needing genius. You just remove stupidity faster than others add it. Success is not addition, it's subtraction. You gain more by cutting what weakens you than by adding what looks impressive. Look at any area of your life. Health, money, relationships, thinking. You already know the mistakes that destroy progress: overindulgence, impulse, ignoring the obvious, refusing feedback. But knowing isn't enough. You have to act on it. Most people have the map but keep driving off cliffs. They love to talk about learning from mistakes, yet they never stop repeating them. That's not growth. That's self-sabotage dressed as effort. Inversion is ruthless honesty. It forces you to face the truth you want to ignore. It doesn't flatter your ego, it exposes your flaws. It makes you ask hard questions. What behaviors keep ruining my results? What beliefs keep sabotaging me? What am I pretending not to know? These questions sting because deep down you already know the answers, you just don't want to admit them. But the moment you do, your power multiplies, because clarity comes when excuses die. The problem with most people is that they chase complexity. They think wisdom means adding more steps, more theories, more hacks. But real wisdom is reduction. Removing errors, trimming excess, simplifying until what remains is bulletproof. You don't need more strategies. You need fewer mistakes. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer self-inflicted wounds. When you focus on avoiding stupidity, you automatically improve everything else. Your relationships become cleaner because you stop feeding drama. Your finances grow because you stop making impulsive decisions. Your mind sharpens because you stop drowning it in noise. Avoiding the negative builds the positive. It's not glamorous, but it's undefeated. You think success comes from brilliance, but it usually comes from survival. From staying in the game long enough for compounding to work. From not making the kind of mistakes that wipe you out completely. One moment of stupidity can undo years of progress. One emotional reaction can destroy what patience built. That's why restraint is intelligence. That's why inversion is power. Ask yourself right now, what's the most common way people like me fail? What are the traps that kill my progress every time? What do I keep doing that I already know doesn't work? You don't need a mentor to tell you that. You already know. You just haven't had the courage to stop. Avoiding stupidity means refusing to play dumb games, refusing to argue with fools, refusing to chase validation, refusing to let ego write checks your future can't cash. It's not exciting, but it's effective. The world is filled with people chasing brilliance and losing. The few who win are the ones who simply stop being careless. The truth is, most of your future pain is preventable. Most of your disasters are predictable. You just have to care enough to notice the warning signs before they explode. You already know what's killing your growth. It's the same few habits you keep justifying. But the moment you decide to stop tolerating your own stupidity, your entire trajectory changes. You don't rise by being extraordinary. You rise by being consistently not stupid. The crowd will always chase shortcuts and applause. Let them. Your job is simpler. Avoid the obvious mistakes everyone else keeps making. That's how you quietly build dominance while others self-destruct. Because in the end, success doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from refusing to keep doing what's wrong. You've been told to follow your passion. That's one of the most dangerous lies in modern thinking. Passion fades. Discipline doesn't. Passion makes you chase excitement. Discipline makes you build empires. Passion is emotional. It burns hot, then dies when things get hard. Discipline is cold, steady, and unbreakable. The people who rely on passion quit the moment it stops feeling good. The people who rely on discipline keep moving even when every part of them wants to stop. Your emotions are unreliable. They shift with sleep, weather, and mood. If your effort depends on how you feel, you'll live like a puppet. Pulled by your energy one day, crippled by your excuses the next. Discipline kills that cycle. It gives you power when motivation disappears. It's the bridge between desire and result. And almost no one crosses it because it's built from repetition, boredom, and sacrifice. Everyone loves the idea of consistency until they realize what it costs. It costs comfort. It costs the illusion of progress. It costs the cheap thrill of novelty. But it gives you something far greater, self-respect. Because when you do what needs to be done, regardless of feeling, you stop needing external validation. You start trusting yourself. That's a kind of confidence no quote or coach can give you. The truth is, the gap between who you are and who you could be is filled with tasks you don't want to do. You already know what they are. The unexciting, repetitive, invisible work that no one celebrates. The small, boring actions that build massive results over time. That's where real growth hides, in the monotony you keep avoiding. You can't master anything while still worshiping excitement. Every day you skip the boring work, you trade future freedom for present comfort. Every time you quit because it's not fun, you reinforce weakness. Your brain to bail whenever reality gets heavy. And then you wonder why you can't trust yourself. Discipline isn't a talent, it's a muscle. Every time you show up when it's hard, you strengthen it. Every time you flinch, you weaken it. It's that simple. People think discipline kills freedom. It's the opposite. Discipline creates it. When you control yourself, nothing controls you. You become reliable, predictable in the right ways, dangerous in the best ways. You're no longer a victim of your moods, your cravings, your impulses. You gain the power to choose long-term over short-term, and that's the real flex. The people who seem effortlessly successful aren't running on motivation, they're running on systems that don't care how they feel. But here's the hard truth. You won't develop discipline until you stop negotiating with yourself. You can't keep giving your mind options. The moment you start saying maybe later, you've already lost. Discipline begins when decisions end. You decide once, then act like it's law. Every time you question your own commitment, you weaken it. Decide once, execute forever. That's how warriors think. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll wait forever. Readiness is a myth. No one feels ready to sacrifice, to push, to endure. You do it because it's required, not because it's convenient. You start when it's messy. You persist when it's dull. You finish when it's painful. That's discipline. Emotionless execution in the face of resistance. And once you master that, you become unstoppable. Passion gets you started. Discipline keeps you standing when passion dies. Everyone's excited at the beginning. That's easy. The grind is where the separation happens. When the excitement fades, the crowd vanishes. Only the disciplined remain, and they're the ones who collect. Rewards everyone else quit too early to earn. Stop glorifying passion and start respecting consistency. Stop chasing motivation and start honoring routine. You don't need to feel inspired. You need to do what matters, even when you're tired, even when no one's watching, even when it feels pointless. Because discipline is the quiet power that compounds into greatness while others wait to feel like it. If you're serious about winning, build your life on discipline, not mood. Set your standards higher than your comfort. Execute relentlessly, because every day you choose consistency over emotion, you sharpen your edge. And one day, when everyone else has faded, you'll still be standing. Not because you were the most passionate, but because you were the most disciplined. You overvalue intensity and underestimate longevity. You think progress comes from explosive effort, the grand push, the all-nighter, the massive leap. But that's not how power is built. Power compounds through endurance, through staying when everyone else burns out, through doing it again and again, long after the excitement has evaporated. The truth is, consistency beats intensity every single time. But most people are too impatient to find out. You want instant transformation, not gradual evolution. You want the shortcut that makes you feel superior tomorrow. That's why you keep starting strong and finishing weak. You sprint through beginnings and crawl through endings. You crave the rush of momentum but can't handle the discipline of maintenance. But here's what you refuse to accept. Real growth is slow, invisible, and brutally repetitive. You won't notice it until one day you wake up unrecognizable, stronger, calmer, sharper, and you realize it happened quietly while you were just showing up. Longevity isn't glamorous. It's not the viral moment, the perfect launch, or the one big win. It's the years of quiet repetition. It's the hundreds of small decisions no one saw. It's saying no to chaos, no to shortcuts, no to anything that threatens your long game. The problem is you're wired for dopamine, not durability. You want the high of progress, not the pain of perseverance. And so you chase speed instead of strength and wonder why everything collapses when pressure arrives. Endurance is a mindset. It's the refusal to treat progress like an event. It's understanding that mastery is never done. It's about showing up when results are invisible and staying when improvement feels microscopic. It's about holding the line when everyone else drops theirs. Longevity demands humility because it forces you to admit that greatness isn't about brilliance. It's about time in the trenches. You've been conditioned to expect exponential returns on minimal effort. You want the rewards of the disciplined without living their routine. But the truth is brutal. Anyone can perform for a week. Few can persist for a decade. That's why most people stay average. Their attention span can't survive the boredom that greatness requires. They confuse fatigue with failure, slow progress with no progress, routine with stagnation. But the consistent know the truth. Repetition isn't the enemy, it's the engine. The reason endurance feels rare is because everyone wants to feel successful, not be successful. The process doesn't give you a high, it gives you resistance. And that resistance is exactly what's shaping you. Every day you show up tired, you're building capacity. Every day you repeat the same fundamentals, you're deepening your mastery. Every time you refuse to quit when it's dull, you're teaching your mind that commitment is non-negotiable. That's how endurance is built. Not in explosions of effort, but in the grind that no one celebrates. Longevity is intelligence disguised as patience. It's strategic stubbornness. It's understanding that your greatest weapon isn't speed, it's time, because time rewards those who can endure boredom, adapt to failure, and remain steady when others crumble. The long game doesn't require brilliance. It requires staying power. You don't need to be faster, just harder to kill. You talk about ambition, but you avoid endurance. You crave achievement, but you reject duration. You want the glory, not the grind. That's why you never reach full capacity, because you keep resetting your effort every time you get bored. Endurance doesn't care about excitement. It feeds on purpose. The ones who dominate in old age are the ones who refuse to stop when everyone else got distracted. Here's the truth no one likes. The long game doesn't look impressive. It looks boring, repetitive, ordinary. But that's where extraordinary hides, under years of repetition. The greatest advantage you can build isn't talent, luck, or connections. It's the ability to keep going long enough for compounding to do its work. When you outlast, you don't have to outshine. You win by remaining when others have vanished. So stop worshiping intensity. Start building endurance. Let time become your partner, not your enemy. Move slowly, deliberately, relentlessly. Be the one who lasts, not the one who flashes and fades, because in the end, it's not the brightest flame that lights the way. It's the one that never goes out. Resilience isn't built in comfort. It's forged in chaos. It's the art of standing tall while everything around you collapses. Most people crumble under pressure because they've trained for ease, not endurance. They spend their lives protecting their comfort zones. And when life inevitably hits, they have no armor. You can't build resilience in peace. You build it by walking through storms and refusing to break. The truth is, life doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care how motivated you are, how kind you are, or how much you deserve something. It will test you, strip you, and humiliate you. Not because it's cruel, but because it's real. Life is the ultimate filter. It separates the wishful from the unshakable. And if you haven't been broken a few times, you haven't been tested. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting hit harder each time and still rising faster. It's about the refusal to stay down. You don't get stronger by avoiding pain. You get stronger by outlasting it. Every hardship is an invitation to toughen your mind, to train your will. But most people waste those chances. They complain, they retreat, they wait for things to get easier. Newsflash, they never do. You get stronger or you get swallowed. When life hits you, don't ask, why me? Ask, what now? That single shift changes everything. Why me? Makes you a victim. What now? Makes you a strategist. One keeps you in motion, the other puts you in motion. You can't control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. That control, that inner grip is what resilience truly is. You've been told to stay positive. Forget that. Stay prepared. Positivity doesn't stop pain. Resilience does. Resilience is the ability to take a punch and keep your composure, to lose and not lose your sense of direction, to fail and not lose your self-respect. It's emotional discipline, the kind that can't be faked, bought, or borrowed. You only earn it by surviving. Everyone wants power, but few can handle the pressure that comes with it. Pressure reveals truth. It exposes what's real. It shows you who you are when control is gone. Most people panic, the resilient adapt. Most people crumble, the resilient recalibrate. Most people chase comfort, the resilient build capability. The difference isn't strength, it's response. Resilience is built in silence. It's built when you suffer without applause, when you lose and still show up the next day, when you have every reason to stop but don't. The world doesn't notice your silent endurance until one day it can't ignore you, because the ones who outlast chaos eventually lead it. Every time you survive something that should have broken you, you gain something others can't fake. Gravity, a certain presence, a steadiness that makes weaker minds feel exposed. That's what real power looks like: calm in crisis, focus under fire, conviction without noise. The world can't rattle someone who's been through hell and refused to die there. You can't outsource resilience. No mentor, no book, no quote can give it to you. You have to earn it the hard way, by facing what terrifies you, by enduring what exhausts you, by continuing when there's no audience, no reward, no visible progress. That's where toughness is born, in the quiet repetition of survival. And once you build that level of mental armor, life stops being intimidating. Setbacks become feedback. Pain becomes information. You stop avoiding struggle and start using it. You stop fearing chaos and start bending it to your will. You stop wishing for easy days, because you've realized that comfort doesn't grow you, resistance does. The ultimate power isn't to avoid pain, it's to absorb it and still move forward with purpose. to take what was meant to destroy you and turn it into direction. That's resilience, not blind optimism, but controlled defiance. The calm, ruthless certainty that no matter what hits you, you'll still be standing when it's over. And the irony is, once you reach that level of resilience, life stops testing you as harshly, not because it's easier, but because you've already proven you can't be broken. You don't need more goals, you need sharper clarity. Most people drown not because they lack effort, but because they waste it. They swing hard in every direction, chasing everything, mastering nothing. They confuse movement with progress. But motion without aim is chaos, and chaos disguised as ambition is what keeps you stuck. Clarity is a weapon. It cuts through distraction. It gives every decision weight. Without it, you become a slave to noise, reacting to trends, chasing opportunities that don't align, saying yes to things that drain you. You keep mistaking busyness for purpose, achievement for direction. But when you don't know what matters, everything feels urgent and nothing truly moves. You say you want success, but what kind? What does it look like? What are you willing to sacrifice for it? Most people can't answer that. They want more money, more freedom, more impact. But more is not a strategy. It's an escape from making real choices. You can't build power on vague desires. Clarity requires decisions. Decisions require courage, and courage always costs comfort. When you know exactly what you want, half your problems vanish because you stop entertaining everything that doesn't align. You stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing validation. Clarity turns maybe into no, and someday into now. It simplifies your mind. It burns away hesitation. That's why it's rare. Most people don't want clarity. They want comfort. They'd rather stay confused than commit to a path that demands focus. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from deciding faster. You don't find it in endless planning. You find it in execution. You learn what's right by eliminating what's wrong. You gain direction by moving, failing, refining, moving again. You don't sit around waiting for certainty. You build it through action. And here's the paradox. Clarity is simple, but it's not easy. It demands you strip away everything fake. The opinions, the noise, the external expectations. It demands you look at your life and admit what no longer fits. It demands you be honest about what's holding you back, even when it's people you love or identities you've clung to. That's why clarity hurts, because before it gives you power, it takes away illusions. But once you see clearly, you become dangerous. You stop moving out of habit. You start moving out of intention. Every yes is deliberate. Every no is final. You stop asking for directions because you finally know your destination. The crowd loses its power over you. Their pace stops influencing yours. Their opinions stop steering your ship. Because you've finally chosen a direction strong enough to silence their noise. The world rewards clarity because it's rare. People follow the ones who know where they're going. Opportunities chase the ones who project conviction. And decisions become easier when you've already chosen your path, because every choice either aligns or distracts. There's no more guessing, no more spinning in circles, no more draining energy on things that don't compound. You think you need motivation, but what you really need is focus. You think you're overwhelmed, but you're just unfocused. You think you're stuck, but you're just split in too many directions. The moment you decide what truly matters and commit to it, the chaos in your mind starts to fade. Clarity isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing enough to move forward with confidence. You'll refine as you go. You'll adjust when necessary. But without direction, even talent becomes wasted potential. With it, even small efforts create massive momentum. So stop trying to do everything. Stop chasing every idea, every distraction, every shiny opportunity. Choose one path, commit with obsession, protect it with discipline. Because once your energy stops scattering, your results start multiplying. And remember this, confusion is expensive, distraction is fatal. But clarity, real, ruthless clarity, pays compounding interest for the rest of your life. You're surrounded by noise, endless opinions, constant comparison, digital chaos disguised as connection. Everyone's talking, almost no one's thinking. The loudest minds are often the shallowest, and you keep letting them rent space in your head for free. Silence has become rare, which means it's now an edge, because clarity, focus, and power don't grow in noise. They grow in stillness. You underestimate how much the noise costs you. Every scroll steals attention. Every argument drains focus. Every notification fractures your mind just enough to weaken your edge. And when you lose your edge, you start reacting instead of creating. You start absorbing instead of observing. You start mistaking distraction for importance. That's how average thinking spreads, not through stupidity, but through overstimulation. You keep feeding your brain junk and expecting elite performance. You drown in information and call it learning. You mistake consumption for growth. But the truth is, your mind can't breathe because you never give it silence. You never let it process, reflect, or sharpen. You're addicted to input, addicted to the illusion of staying informed while your focus quietly decays. If you want your thoughts to carry weight, starve them of noise. Starve them of mindless scrolling, of meaningless opinions, of constant validation. Silence isn't emptiness. It's space for truth to emerge. The people who move the world don't fill every second with noise. They protect their mental environment like a fortress. They understand that silence is where ideas mature, decisions refine, and intuition strengthens. Most people fear silence because it exposes them. In silence, you hear everything you've been avoiding. Your insecurities, your wasted potential, your real desires. It's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is awareness, and awareness is how you take control back. Because the moment you see your own mind clearly, you stop being manipulated by the noise around you. Every time you disconnect, you regain strength. Every time you choose solitude over distraction, your thinking compounds. Because deep thought is a rare currency now. The world runs on reaction, not reflection. And in a world of reaction, the one who can think clearly dominates. Guard your attention like it's gold, because it is. It's the foundation of every result, every idea, every ounce of progress. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Lose control of it, and you become a product, shaped by algorithms, moods, and other people's agendas. But when you own your attention, you own your reality. Silence isn't about meditation or isolation. It's about control. It's the ability to choose when to engage and when to retreat, to act with intention instead of impulse, to create from thought instead of reacting from emotion. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't need noise to prove power. You want to think like a strategist? Then stop thinking like a consumer. Step out of the stream. Observe. Reflect. Disconnect until your thoughts sound like your own again. Because wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers, and you can't hear it when the volume of the world is maxed out. Learn to be unreachable sometimes. Learn to let silence rebuild your focus. Let boredom sharpen your creativity. Let solitude become your training ground. You'll notice something strange happen. The more silent you become, the louder your results get. The world will keep chasing noise. The endless feed, the constant outrage, the meaningless debates. Let them. You don't have to compete in the chaos. Your advantage is silence. Because when everyone else is distracted, the one who can still think wins. You think age steals your edge. It doesn't. It sharpens it if you've spent your years right. Time either erodes you or refines you. It either breaks you down or makes you dangerous. Most people grow older, not wiser, because they never extracted the lessons from their years. They confuse survival with experience. They mistake existence for evolution. But age alone gives nothing. Reflection gives everything. The truth is, getting older is only an advantage if you've earned it. The scars, the mistakes, the long nights, they're supposed to turn into leverage, not bitterness. But most people waste the pain. They carry it, they complain about it, but they never use it. They age without upgrading. They grow tired, not sharp. They stop studying, stop adapting, stop staying curious, and then they wonder why life passes them by. There's nothing powerful about youth except energy. There's nothing powerful about age except wisdom. But wisdom without application is just nostalgia. The few who keep winning late in life are the ones who stayed students. They never became too proud to learn, too old to change, too successful to question themselves. That humility paired with experience becomes lethal. Age is the ultimate unfair advantage if you've built correctly, because while others chase quick wins, you see patterns. While others react, you anticipate. While others burn out, you conserve. That's what compounding looks like. Years of observation turning into instinct. You don't move faster, you move smarter. You don't chase trends, you outlast them. You don't compete, you position. And yet most people waste that potential. They let comfort calcify their mind. They cling to old identities because letting go feels like death. They stop evolving and then blame time for stealing their relevance. But time didn't betray them. Their stagnation did. The mind only rusts when it stops moving. The body only weakens when it stops being challenged. The will only fades when it's never tested. Getting older doesn't make you slow. Attachment does, arrogance does, the refusal to update your beliefs does. The moment you stop questioning your own assumptions, you start decaying. The moment you start defending your past instead of improving your future, you start dying early. The difference between age and decay is curiosity. Stay curious and you stay alive, not just physically, but mentally, strategically, powerfully. You don't have to fear age, you have to fear wasted time. Every year that passes should make you more focused, not more fragile, more selective, not more cynical. You should become a sharper version of yourself, not a softer one. Because if you're learning faster than you're aging, you're winning. Wisdom compounds just like money if you reinvest it. If you extract lessons, refine your thinking, and apply it daily, your advantage multiplies with every decade. You start seeing 5 moves ahead while others are still figuring out the first. You stop reacting emotionally because you've seen this pattern before. You stop fearing failure because you understand it's just another feedback loop. Most people underestimate how dangerous quiet experience can be. The mind that's seen decades of repetition, patterns, and pain becomes precise. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to prove. It just knows that calm decisiveness, that's not luck. That's years of mistakes transformed into mastery. So no, age doesn't weaken you unless you let it. Time doesn't dull your blade unless you stop sharpening it. The question isn't, how old are you? The real question is, how well have you used your years? Because the ones who keep evolving don't get old. They just get efficient. The world worships youth because it's blind to the power of refinement. Let them chase speed. You focus on accuracy. Let them crave recognition. You play the long game, because in the end, time rewards the disciplined, the reflective, the adaptive. You can't control age, but you can control evolution. And if you keep evolving, you don't age out of the game. You become the game. So here it is. The truth most people run from: your life will not change until you decide you're done living like everyone else. You've heard enough. You've read enough. You've talked enough about growth, discipline, and mindset. None of it matters until you move. Knowledge doesn't transform you. Execution does. Every excuse, every delay, every hesitation is just proof that you're choosing comfort over power.